Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us today. My name is Florence. I'm head of privacy and data governance at Approach Cyber. Approach Cyber, it's a 360 pure player in cybersecurity and privacy. We're a Belgian-owned company. We've been here 20 years. We provide a whole bunch of services. I'm not going to go into details, but we have offices in Louvain-la-Neuve, Brussels, Antwerp, and in Switzerland, because I was asked before starting. Thank you for joining us today for this session. We're going to discuss data today in a cybersecurity fair. It's maybe a bit unusual, but we're quickly going to understand why. First of all, data is everywhere, so I think it's important that we talk about it. But also, I think for this session, for you who are maybe in the position of a CIO, a CTO, a CISO, it's important to know how to deal with this data. And we're going to focus specifically on data security, data privacy, and the governance of your data. So I'm going to try to bring you a few tactics, a few tips and tricks from experience, from what we learned at Approach. We're serving our clients in data governance and in data security for a couple of years. It's not extensive, so you might have also some nice feedback to share. Feel free to share. I suggest that we share and ask questions by the end of the session, because we have pretty much a lot to discuss here today. Quick word on Approach. What are we doing? We're basically bringing cyber serenity to society. We like to say, you guys, you focus on your business and we take care of everything. That's really basically the idea. We have a booth over there. I'm going to show you the number by the end. A famous saying to start, because I find it very relevant. I love playing with data. I'm doing data protection, data security, and I love this saying. It's this one. If we have data, let's look at data. If all we have is opinions, let's go with mine. So data is crucial. Data is important, but if we use data to be strategic, to take decisions, it has to be a good one, safe one, quality, and so on. So let's look at data a little bit. The 2025 data landscape. Why? Talking context here. What's new? What's happening? It's a fast-moving ecosystem. First thing, I'm going too far. All right, exploding data volumes and demand. It's not new. Big data was there in the place already some time, but now we are really talking about a proper explosion in terms of volumes. Why? Data is being generated by IoT systems, by everything that is connected to your systems, but also with the rapid, explosive adoption of AI. I think this you can really imagine and you can figure out for yourself, which brings a lot of challenges. More volume brings naturally together more risk. What do you do with this risk? How do you manage this data risk as a CISO or as an IT manager? Most of the time, if you're working in information security, you are going to look at your perimeter, you're going to look at your systems, at your environment, you're going to big fancy barriers around it. Are you sure you're also building those barriers and those best practices around your data? This is an important one. Why? AI, for example, brings other risks. AI that are connected to your systems, for a copilot, for example, that is plugged to your SharePoint, is going to expand your attack surface, for sure. New data is generated via AI, by the way. What do you do with that new data? How do you classify it? Do you put some labels on it? How do you make sure that this data also is under control? As you know, attackers are also using those new tools, those AI tools, to try to reach out to you. I was yesterday at NATO discussing cyber warfare with a whole bunch of people, and there were a lot of crazy talks and real-life examples of prompt injections, all those sorts of data that you can model poisoning and so on and so forth. It's happening right now. How do you make sure that you take care of these risks, right? Another one is privacy and ethical concerns. More data, a lot of data, maybe unstructured data, you don't really know where it is, maybe uncontrolled data. Might also, in that bunch of data, you might have some PII, personal information, right? If you have some PII, well, bad news, you're subject to GDPR and also other types of obligations, sectoral obligations, for example, other types of obligations. And actually, it also brings some ethical concerns. You might find it a bit far-stretched. You might wonder what does ethics come to do with it. We're going to touch upon that a bit later. By the way, you know that AI Act is here now. If you are a company in the public or in the private sector deploying some services for customers from a certain level of risk, you are under Article 27 also obliged, it's compulsory to do a fundamental rights assessment, which is also dealing with ethics in a way. Last but not least, no, not last, there's still one to go, global regulations. Quickly touching upon that, you know, as I know, that Europe has been very generous in proposing all sorts of legislations. You have been hearing a lot about DORA, NIS2, you know the GDPR, this is the cornerstone and it's the oldest one, but you also have Data Governance Act, Data Services Act, Data Act. How do you manage that? I mean, as a CISO or as a compliance officer or as a DPO, okay? You have all this bunch of information and requirements, legal requirements. The very big difficulty that we see that our clients express is how do I reconcile those obligations and make it operable, actionable, okay? How do I make it work? This is something also that we will work a lot upon at Approach. We've just published a nice article around that for supply chain management and all the obligations. If you want, we can discuss that later. And then last but not least, governance. I mean, exponential growth of data, we said. That brings also the question of who's responsible for what, you know? Who's owning the data? Who's responsible for the security of the data? Who will go and investigate in case of needed? We have to operate data deletion. How to make this happen? Governance is very often overlooked, yet from our experience, without governance, potentially all data projects are doomed to fail. So I've been gathering a few concerns, a few issues that were expressed by some CISOs, CIOs, CTOs lately, and I compared, to be completely honest, also with ChatGPT results, because let's use technology. We came up to pretty much the same kind of results, right? First challenge, data silos and fragmentation. You get a lot of data. How are they organized? Very often by silos, by system, it's fragmented, it's exploded everywhere, okay? Difficult, because if you set up a set of rules, how do you make sure that those rules are adopted and coherent all the way? How do you ensure, for example, for data quality, if you have a data that is collected there and used there and then another one? Data silos and fragmentation is really a hot topic. It's difficult. You lack visibility, and you have to take care of that. Cybersecurity threats, which we touched upon it rapidly already. A threat, a ransomware, an attack that is touching your data, extracting your data, freezing your data, can compromise data integrity and availability. Difficult also to manage. If it touches upon PII, then you have the privacy issues, as you know. So you have to go potentially to the Data Protection Authority within the 72 hours and say, hey, dear authority, I have a problem. My data has been breached. And potentially you have also to contact your clients to tell them that their data has been breached. Difficult. Balancing security and data accessibility, that's an important one for you, you know, because CISOs, DPOs, we're often seen as people who are slowing down the business. You know, we come up with all those sets of rules and we say what to do, what not to do. Yet you have data consumers, where you have internal consumers who need that data. And if you build a huge, big castle around that data to protect it, you might slow down everything. Authorizations, access management, very important also. How do you manage this access management so that the data is used by the right people, seen by the right people, and not the other ones? Misconfigurations in the permissions can also lead to actual breaches. Just having access to data is actually labeled as a breach under GDPR. Real-time data monitoring and incident response. Honestly, this is a very important one. You can protect your data and put a set of rules at a moment T. If you don't, make sure that you follow that all along the line. You will have done a big effort right here and right now, and 2 years from now, you're going to have to do it again. You have to monitor. You have to make sure that this remains in time, that this remains secure. Also, why? Data security, you have to get those alerts if anything happens with those crown jewels of yours. You have sensitive data, business confidential data. If there's any movement or something that is not supposed to be happening with those data, you have to be alerted immediately. Basic security principle, yet we see that it's not done all the time by companies. Delayed response can cause a lot of damage as well. Policies and controls, I'm not going to go into details. It's always one of the big challenges for the CISOs and CIOs. We know we need them. It's sometimes difficult. And if you don't have them or if you don't have the proper ones, you run operational risks, that we know. And then data governance back again. But we're going to touch more upon that later. Data silos. Now, sharing time, okay? I'm just sharing here a few tactics, a few tips that you might want to use for yourself. First and foremost, if you have to remember one thing from this session, please know your data. It's extremely important. You think you know, you might think you know, but data, as I said again, is scattered everywhere and in unstructured spaces sometimes. And what we do at Approach very often is this exercise, a data discovery, right? And I can guarantee you 100% of the time, when we do a data discovery exercise, those results there, how many sensitive data were accessed, by whom, which are the files that are not run properly or protected properly, which have unauthorized access, what are the events on sensitive data. 100% of the time, when we show the results of this type of assessment, we have the same answer, is please help us deal with that. Cleaning, labeling, organizing that data, extremely important. So back to data silos, all right? So first of all, know your data. You cannot protect something that you don't know. Maybe you missed a part or a bit of your perimeter and you don't know. Second of all, adopt something fun, something nice that is called a data fabric if you're a large company. What is a data fabric? It's an architectural approach that actually it creates a unified and consistent way to access your data. Especially interesting if you are operating in various geographical sites. A data fabric is really going to help you organize, connect various data sources and allow globally seamless integration. Mesh architecture is a very interesting one. Mesh is a bit different. It's a federated way of organizing your data, and it's really one of the emerging trends, right? Data mesh, it's decentralized architecture, and it's built upon 4 core principles, all right? It's organized around data domains. So you have domains, and data is seen as a product. It's not, and it's very different from what we used to do. Normally, data exercise, it will be given to someone who will be given the responsibility. You organize your data and you make sure it happens. And it's no. From our experience, what we see is that big, massive projects where you invest hundreds of thousands of euros, most of the time fail after 2-3 years. A lot of investment. Why? Because there are mastodons. They are way too big, and you try to apply them to the whole company at once. It's not working most of the time, unless you have an army of people to make it work and to train everyone. What I would give as a tip is really start small. Organize your data starting small, and we're going to touch upon that a bit later. Also, start with a project. First, know your data. Start with your crown jewels. Your crown jewels are extremely important. Make sure you know them. Talk to the business. Say what is important to you guys. And then you make those categories and you know what you need to protect first. This is your high priority. If this goes away, then we really have a problem, okay? Then you can use those metadata management tools. Again, if you have the means, you have the Colibras and so on. But you can also build your own data catalog. Again, starting small, if you like, works. It works too, all right? Don't forget the sharing policies, data sharing policies. And try to clean up also. The moment that you have this clear picture of where your data is organized, what you want to protect, you do this cleanup exercise. The data stewards, in an ideal world, it would be great to have data stewards to oversee data quality, interoperability. In smaller companies, sometimes it's not immediately needed, but it's good at some point. Real-time data management. Now I'm going to share something that you probably know. Have you seen potentially who has knowledge of what a DSPM is? Do you know what DSPM is? Data Security Posture Management, okay? Those are platforms, those are tools who help you with your data security. And they help you monitor, organize, and it can be done real time also. So we're talking about the Varonis, they're there, the Purview, Microsoft Purview. You can really organize rules, categories, labels, and have those systems run and scan and provide you those right alerts, those alerts that you need to protect the data. Those systems will tell you if somebody's downloading a whole bunch of data on a Friday evening. I see you say nodding. Of course, something unusual happens. You have to know, right? You really have to have an alert. Those tools are extremely interesting, important, indispensable, I would even say, but they're costly. You have to know. You can also, again, start small, but an important tip I want to share with you. Don't go there, don't buy a license if you don't put humans to manage that. It's a project. If you buy a Ferrari or a Porsche of a DSPM, really nice. I can tell you, and most of the time they sell you a 3 years license. After 3 years, you're going to say, no, thank you, because it didn't leverage what I expected from those tools, right? Why? Because they're going to generate a whole bunch of alerts, and then your issue is going to be, how do I differentiate the noise from the real ones that I really need? And so data security engineers, we have one in the room, by the way, our engineers, they're going to go and help you set up those rules. They're going to tell the system, I want to protect, for example, a data security, social security number. Social security number, I need to collect it for my work, whatever. It looks like this. So those systems don't have access to your data in itself. You're going to say, it looks like this. So you can recognize them. They will check the metadata, they will check the format, and they will send you those alerts, all right? You're also going to tell the system, if you have a big downloads of huge amount of data, this time of the day or of the month by this team, it's okay. It's just backups. So don't send me an alert. You have to fine tune, all right, to differentiate the real ones from the noise. You have to have a human there. And it's a back and forth process. You're going to use a bit of time. And then, of course, you have to have someone behind the screen to receive those alerts and act upon it. If you detect, it's like a sock, you know, you detect something, you have no one to act upon it, then it's worthless. Real-time data classification. The real-time is interesting there. Do you know that it's possible to do real-time? You can flag, tag in flight, or also very important to know. And then the rest, I'm sure most of you are familiar with this. Monitor lineage, ensure that you know where the data is flowing all across the company. If some things look interesting on the side, we can also talk about it later together if you like. Another one, cybersecurity threats. We quickly touched upon that. I think here, I mean, it's basically what we are discussing everywhere. Make sure that you have the right detect and response platforms and tools, because your data is also being protected by this. Data loss prevention is an important one. Data loss prevention tools. Make sure that you have the right information, the right tools to detect if data is being sent out to the wrong recipients, is being shared, and so on and so forth. It's a whole project in itself, but it's really helpful. It's probably one of the biggest demands that we have at the moment for companies at the moment. Backups, threat intelligence, and zero architecture that you are potentially familiar with. This one, I'd like to spend a little bit of time on incident response, right? We all know the impact an incident can have on our systems, on our business continuity, on reputation even. Make sure that you have automated detection of those incidents and that you do some threat intelligence, right? Real time. Deception technology is being used now also quite a lot. What I would like to stress out, we have CISOs working at approach for clients and we have DPOs, is don't forget that whenever you have an incident that is touching upon your data and potentially whenever there's personal data involved, you have to work hand in hand with your DPO. Don't forget to involve your DPO, because it might be that you have to do a declaration to the authority back again. PR teams, crisis management, the messages that you send out there are extremely important. We do a lot of incident response at Approach for clients where you're in a heavy issues. There's this red phone number under a signature. You can call us. We do that. We have an integrated approach. It's not a one person who's going to deal with it. Documentation also, don't forget to document. That's really an important tip because the regulator is going to ask for your documentations, those logs. This happens this time, this moment, and so on. Keep it. Keep everything, right? Data governance. If you start with a data governance exercise, please think cautiously, carefully, take the time to think about the model. Are you going to do something centralized or decentralized or federated? You have to find some best practices or look for advice. And then you can enroll the thing as you like. Start small, as we said, and treat data as it were a product, like we said before. I think from our experience, this is the best pragmatic approach, and this is the approach that is leveraging the most results. Data ownership can be defined different ways. What I realize is that if you tell someone from now on top of your job, you're going to be a data owner or you're going to be in charge of, they will feel like they have an extra burden on their heads, right? Don't put names on the roles. Just tell them, oh, you're the more knowledgeable. You're the one that's taking more, who has dealing the most with that type of data. You're going to be the one dealing with that data from now on. Actually, it's ownership, but you don't tell them. And then you make things roll, and you organize this data committee where people gather and discuss how we protect the data. Operationalization is being operational is very important. Make it work. Make it work. Quick work on ethics. As I said, you might be doing an ethics check. And I'm sure some of you think, yeah, but that's not for us. It's for large companies. We don't need to do that. Do you know who was the first organization in Belgium who set up a data ethics committee? Any idea? It's those guys, VDAB. VDAB, they started with a risk committee, an ethics council. Why? Because they're gathering a lot of data from citizens to put them to work. They put a lot of AI on that. They started with 2 AI projects in 2018. They scaled up to 23 AI projects consuming a lot of data in 2023. I don't know where they are right now, I should ask. Meaning that you have to be able to have people around the table to decide what to do with the data, how you collect it, is it treated in a fair, honest way for the citizens. If you want to look for this, there's a very nice link to the BOSA website, on the BOSA website. So you see scaling up. So we are coming to an end, but what's next? What are the next trends in terms of governing your data, make it work? Follow closely those federated models. I would advise the PET, privacy enhancing tools, are also very, very present. Automation, very important. So again, don't touch the data itself. Look at the metadata, look at the formats of the data and automate as a maximum. Hybrid platforms use policy engines across hybrid platform and traceability AI governance models. And I would like to end up with one saying, because we've been discussing chaos, how difficult it is for a company, for an organization, but also for a person to organize chaos. I know it's a challenge sometimes for you guys. It is for us too. In the midst of chaos, there is always an opportunity. If we go back to what we just said in this session, you know your data, you organize it, you take control of it, you automate risk detection and a few actions, and you have the right data engineers, the right data owners to help you out, actually you can rest assured, and you are in full control of your data. And by the way, that's from this guy. It's a military. Back again, not saying that we need to go there, but I mean, it's lessons learned. So thank you for listening. I hope you learned at least one mini thing. If you have any questions, shoot now, or we can discuss later and you come to the approach booth there. Thank you very much.